Chris Yandex, CYInterview, covering Las Vegas and the world. If you haven't already, please hit the like button below and please hit the subscribe button below to keep up with everything we have going on here at CYInterview in Las Vegas and beyond. We greatly appreciate it. We are now only 10 days away from WrestleMania in Las Vegas. Of course, it's going to take place at Allegiant Stadium, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, and we continue our road to WrestleMania by revisiting some of our best pro wrestling CYInterviews by bringing you one of our great conversations with the great announcer, interviewer, backstage interviewer, commentator, Mean Gene Okerlund. Here is our past CYInterview with Mean Gene right now.
You're on CYInterview.
I'd like to welcome my guest this time. He's the host of WWE Confidential, but he's had a historical career as a wrestling interviewer, and he's been a TV personality for centuries, it seems, like decades, excuse me. Welcome at this time, Mean Gene Okerlund. How are you doing, man?
Chris, I'm doing very well. Centuries might be a little overkill, actually. It sometimes when I think about it, and it flashes through my mind, it seems like I've been in the business for 20 minutes. But in reality, it's 32 great years.
How did you end up on the WWE Confidential show? And is there ever a possibility you might do something else on one of the other WWE shows in the near future?
Okay, well, part one, I had talked to both Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn, the executive producer of the then WWF television programming, and we had talked for the last, actually, 2 years in regards to a concept, something that would be probably a good fit for both of us, considering my experience and kind of my style, yet I probably wouldn't fit into a Raw or a SmackDown, as it were. So we kind of put this thing together, and Kevin Dunn called me one day and he said, I think we're good to go. Come on up to New York and let's talk about it, and hopefully we can be on the air. And that was back in the middle part of May.
You have known Bobby Heenan for years. What are your best memories of working with Bobby Heenan?
Oh my goodness, I've got so many great memories of Bobby, and I'm just going to have to say in general the great memories that I have probably were back in the days when he was a manager, and those will go all the way back to the AWA and the early days of WWF. And of course, he became a broadcaster in the World Wrestling Federation, and when I moved on to WCW in 1993, he was probably another 5 or 6 months behind me. He came in early '94, and we had an opportunity to once again work again. But Bobby was always very clever. I think he's one of the real bright minds in this business. Plus, not only could he talk about it on the air and convey and communicate great issues and angles amongst the performers, but he was also very good, I would say, in laying out some feuds and some concepts and issues along the way. He did a very good job of being able to transmit those and communicate those to the public.
Why did you decide to go to WCW in the first place?
Well, my contract had ended with the World Wrestling Federation in September of 1993, and at that time I had some philosophical differences with some people in the company, including Vince McMahon. Great minds don't always think alike, whatever the case may be, but I thought it was time for a change. After 10 years in the same position, doing the same thing, I thought that perhaps the best thing for me would be to move on, and I still feel that was the right move, as I do feel it was the right move for me to come on back at this juncture and be able to host Confidential and maybe down the road work on some pay-per-views.
When you look back at what happened to WCW, did you ever think that you would be back in the WWE?
Yeah, Chris, I did. I felt that someday that's probably where I'd end up, as long as they were intact. And I have no eyes to retire. They say retire to what? Actually, this business has been very close to me for the last 32 years, and you kind of live and breathe it. And when you're away from it for any extended period of time, you feel a little uncomfortable. But to answer the question, yeah, I definitely felt that I would end my career in New York.
What do you think went wrong with WCW in your opinion?
Well, I think it's very simple. It was horribly, horribly mismanaged. Actually, it was a rudderless ship. It wasn't really being run by anybody at any time during the 9 years that I was there. And if that would happen for me, as close as I was to the product and the role that I played in the television programming, if that's the way I felt, how do you think some of these other guys felt? And especially the locker room mentality and television production. Those things were really out of whack, and a lot of people were just totally clueless because they had no direction whatsoever.
What was the reason for you wrestling Mark Madden back in WCW? I really just am curious about that one.
If you can tell me for a second what that possibly would have accomplished, it was just some brainstorm of Vince Russo, and the angle was a total piece of garbage. I did it, I guess, because I wanted to be a team player and let everybody, amongst the ranks know that I was going to be a team player, and I'd do what they asked me to do, but I wasn't really in love with that angle.
What are your thoughts on the Steve Austin situation at this time, and do you ever think he'll go back to the WWE?
That's a tough one for me to answer. I think there's a couple of things that we have to think about when we think about the Steve Austin situation. Steve has been in this business, kicking around in it for around 15, 16 years, and maybe with that high volume of appearances and the exposure that he had, he might have just burned himself out. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't come back once they recharged the batteries, but I kind of had a feeling that Steve had just burned himself out and finally just one day threw up his hands and said, God, I don't like the way this storyline is going as it pertains to me, so I'm going to take a hike. I'm going to jump on a plane. I'm going to fly back to San Antonio, and the hell with it. I don't need it anymore. And he probably doesn't, because he's made, Lord knows, enough money that he can live very comfortably for the rest of his life.
What have you heard about the Hulk Hogan situation and him not going to Australia? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it was purely a physical situation. He is beat up. I mean, this guy took a lot of bumps for a lot of years, and especially for a big man. Andre the Giant and some of these bigger guys didn't take quite as many bumps as a Hulk Hogan, who, and I've got to give him credit, because when he was the World Wrestling Federation champion, he worked 300 nights a year, and those were, ring appearances, and he gave them good matches, and he just probably got beat up to the point where it's just a little tough for him to move, and certainly a 14-hour plane ride right now couldn't do that back of his any good. He's got a knee that needs to be operated on. He's put it off way too long, and I think those health issues are going to have to be faced head-on by Hogan before he's going to be able to give 100%. I mean, he does give 100%, but he's working right now with some injuries that are, I would have to say right now, perhaps tainting his performance somewhat.
Do you think the comments made by Lance Storm about 9/11 were appropriate for the WWE?
Absolutely not. I would have to say that goes back to some of the material that we did during the Gulf War when I was in the World Wrestling Federation, and I thought that was tasteless. When it comes to a national situation, a patriotic situation, I think we stay away from it because, it's gonna generate some heat, but it's cheap heat, and it's not the kind that we need in this industry.
Did you ever think your former boss, Eric Bischoff, would be working for Vince McMahon in the WWE?
Chris, nothing surprises me in this business, because I have seen stranger things happen. There was one situation, and I'm not going to mention any names, where a promoter had just about been killed, and 6 or 8 years later, the perpetrator was back working for him. So, what can I tell you? To see Eric Bischoff in the WWE after some of the things he said about Vince McMahon. Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, but still nothing beyond reality.
What do you think of the current state of professional wrestling?
I think it's probably in a down cycle. People ask me about wrestling as compared to 25 or 30 years ago, and consumers always want change. Hell, if they liked the 1975 Pontiac, and that's what people wanted today, that's what we'd be driving. But no, people want change. They want something different. And certainly they're getting a different wrestling product today than they were even 10 or 15 years ago, to say nothing about 25 or 30 years ago. But I think that the wrestling business is very healthy. We have a great fan base, and I think you just have to tell the right stories and get the right combinations going to draw those big numbers on television and, again, fill up arenas around the country and around the world.
Looking back on your career when it was the WWF, you sang the national anthem at WrestleMania 1. What are your best memories of your time in the WWF back then?
Well, of course, that was a very exciting time because that was a whole new era. We were coming out of old school when everything was basically kayfabe and was done on the QT, and there was a lot of psychology that went into wrestling. I mean, yeah, they'd have high spots in a match, but not necessarily an entire match of high spots like you see with a lot of the cruiserweights. There was a lot of psychology and a lot of great work. I saw a match probably, I'm thinking around 9 or 10 years ago, a Legends match between Wahoo McDaniel and Dick Murdoch. Both of those two men are now dead. But I saw a match in the latter stages of both of their careers, and I just thought it was one of the great, great matches. As a matter of fact, I saw it at the Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg at the Legends reunion.
How is your burger franchise coming along?
Burger franchise is doing great. We're up to 83 of them right now worldwide. Of course, they go in military installations and in college and universities around the country. And we're doing quite well with it. I've also jumped into the pizza business with Mean Gene's Pub Pizza, and I think we've got roughly 30 of those up. So we're very excited about the food business. We keep the product very tight, and we try to give them something with a little edge to it. And we do have some great burgers. We've got the Mean Gene's Blazing Cajun, the All-Star Burger, and even a Tabasco burger that would burn your shorts up.
Finally, what's in store for the rest of your career?
Well, you know what, Chris? I just take it one day at a time, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow as much as I look forward to talking about the great days of yesteryear. But I'm just very happy to be here, and health, of course, becomes a very important consideration for guys as they get a little bit older. But I've got my health, and I'm happy, and I'd like to do it forever.
Thank you so much, Mean Gene Okerlund. Great interview for sure.
Chris, thank you, and good luck to you.
For CYInterview, I'm Chris Yandek.